Hey everyone, this week I'm going to show you how to make this Kurinuki teapot and cup. So Kurinuki is a style of carving away from a single block of clay and means to hollow. So you need to put some clay together and make the shape of approximately what you want. So this is just a solid piece of clay. I'm adding a little section for a spout. And then I'm kind of compressing everything together and smoothing it together. I want this piece to be pretty solid, so I didn't even like wedge the clay. I literally took it from the bag and just started rounding it out, and then I added the spout. I'm not adding a handle or carving a handle in this piece. I'm going to create one out of some wood and old hangers, wire from hangers. So there we go. Let's get started. So of course, my ability of filming always seems to be that I miss part of it. So the first part you would do is cut off the lid. So I'm going to show you how to do it out of a smaller piece of clay that I'm going to eventually turn into a little cup. So simply use your wire cutting tool and cut off the top of your teapot. And then at this consistency, it's a great time to start carving into. I then am measuring where I'm carving from my lid, and I'm going to mark that onto the base part of my cup here or my teapot. And then I'm going to draw a line so that I know where not to carve. My teapot is round, so I rounded out, but this piece is square on the outside, so I left the design square, and then that will fit back together. So I recommend carving out the inside of your piece at this consistency, fresh clay right out of the bag, and then you can wedge up this clay and use it again. The part on the outside that you're going to carve, you're going to let sit up in front of the fan for a bit so that it's easier to carve. But you want to get as much of the clay out at this point, still leaving it pretty thick. And then we're going to find something like a straight razor. I tried a couple of different tools, and we're just going to kind of cut away and leave these little sections off. What's amazing with Kurinuki is these carved parts away, you will never be able to repeat this exact process again. So every piece you make will be unique. I did not like using the wire tool on the outside. I then asked Brent for a tool, and he gave me this painting spatula. Painting knife, and that worked pretty well. You can also use a putty knife. That works really well too. And you didn't see, but I left this teapot in front of the fan for a bit so that it wasn't super soft, but not leather hard either. I am then cutting away parts of it to leave these little notches for a handle. And then I will keep going. I then trim the bottom up so that I have a nice foot in there, and my walls are about 1/4 of an inch thick or a little thicker, so that I can do all this carving away. And then once I get it to where I like it on the outside, I can then carve again on the inside to remove more clay so it's not super heavy. Now each time I carve into the lid, I leave it on the piece, and then I slightly lift it off so that it doesn't get suctioned back on there. So I'll keep working it until I have the outside to where I like it. I'm still keeping it quite thick so that I can trim out more clay on the inside to make it lighter. But I really want to focus on the outside first. You'll see too that I'm going to trim out more from the lid. It's important that you get the lid kind of finished first because that will dry out the quickest because it's the smallest piece. But you also want to focus on the foot because you want that part to be set in. And then I like to use a damp sponge for when I get to the point of where I like it, so that it's nicely smooth and compressed. It's hard to see obviously in this picture, but I'm actually kind of going under the rim here of the teapot so that it kind of creates like a flange on top where the lid is going to sit, but still removing enough clay. I do recommend smoothing out the inside for cleaning purposes, but it's totally up to you. I left mine pretty rough if you let it dry up a bit and then smooth it down with a damp sponge, it'll be easier. I then am ready to start focusing on the spout. And to do that, I'm going to take a tool to drill a hole in it. You could use a drill, but I would not go too fast here because the clay is still quite wet. And I'm just going to slowly push out until I get all the way through. And when I did that, I accidentally punctured a hole because I didn't hold it quite straight. So I'm sticking the tool back in for support, and then I'm compressing some clay in to where that hole is. And you can fill in any holes when you're making this process, because especially when you're doing your first Kurinuki style anything, you're probably going to cut a hole into your piece, which is fine. So continue finishing up, making sure everything is nice and pretty. And then you can set that on the bisque shelf to be fired. Oh yes, I forgot. The parts where I'm going to attach my handle wire, I need to cut a hole into those. So I first poked with my needle tool just to get in there, and then I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to kind of carve around, and then I'll take my ribbon tool to kind of smooth out those edges so that they're not sharp, because I want my wire tool to, my hanger wire to fit in there nicely. So here I just wanted to show you my finished carved piece. It's a little rough in there. I recommend smoothing that out for cleaning purposes. But then I also wanted to show you how much clay comes out by the time you're done. And this is actually what's carved out after the piece was sitting. So I'm going to show you again quickly how I did my teacup, which is pretty much the exact same process, except this time I'm using that putty knife, which I think is way better than any of the other tools I used on the actual teapot. So I'll keep moving it away. I put a hole in here. You can see it got too thin, but that's okay. I'm leaving it, and I'm going to push it together and then take some of my clay if it's soft enough, and I'm going to put it on the inside and compress it and smooth it into place. What's nice about this design is it's pretty rough on the outside, so you don't have to make it look super pretty, but you need to make sure it's filled in. I like to use the back of my nail when compressing because that does a much better job. And then continue to carve. Because this is a cup and we are going to be drinking out of it, you do want to spend some time on the lip of your cup, the rim of it. You want to take a sponge that's damp and round it out so that it fits comfortably on your mouth, because you don't want to stab yourself with your cup. Continue to remove the clay until you get a thinness that you want on the top. And again, I highly recommend really taking the time to smooth out the insides of your pieces for cleaning purposes. It will make it much easier to clean the inside of your cup if it is smooth. So you can see here I'm slowly removing more and more clay, trying to keep my rim pretty even. Used a little wet finger to kind of compress some of that clay on the inside to smooth it down. And now I'm taking my little knife tool and holding it at like about a 45-degree angle and pinching the clay in between my fingers to give it a smoother lip. I will carve in the foot. I'll then compress it down, adding a little water on my finger, and then finish up the foot, smooth it all down. Make sure it sits flat, I would recommend. And there you have it, my cup and my teapot. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Bye.